I begin by imagining myself drifting at the very boundary of a place I have always known from a distance, but never truly touched with this kind of calm attention. Out here, at the outer edges of our solar system, the darkness does not feel empty or cold. It feels peaceful, like a deep, quiet room where nothing interrupts the softness of my breathing. There is no sound except the slow rhythm of my own thoughts unfolding. As I float weightlessly, I let myself adjust to the gentle stillness that surrounds me. Everything feels suspended in a calm that stretches in every direction. Far away, a faint glow hints at the presence of something warm, something steady, something that has been shining long before life on Earth ever began. I take a slow, imaginary step toward that glow, and in doing so, I begin to understand the solar system not as an arrangement of planets and numbers, but as a soft, balanced structure that has settled into its rhythm over billions of years. The vastness around me makes each movement feel slower, each thought more carefully shaped, each breath more soothing, as I drift inward. The sun reveals itself not as the intense blazing star I see in pictures, but as a warm and quietly glowing sphere, radiating light in smooth expanding waves. The sun, with its age of about 4.6 billion years, feels ancient but not tired. It shines because hydrogen in its core is gently fusing into helium, releasing energy that travels slowly outward through its layers before finally slipping into space. Even that journey, taking thousands of years from core to surface, happens patiently. The sunlight I feel on my imagined face has traveled over 8 minutes through the emptiness, yet its arrival feels unhurried, as if it simply wandered toward me. The sun rotates slowly, completing one turn in weeks rather than hours, and the way it turns is not the same everywhere. Its equator spins faster than its poles, yet none of this motion feels uneven or sharp. It all blends into a rhythm that matches the calm of this drifting sensation. With every passing moment, the sun becomes not a fiery ball of chaos, but a warm, the reliable presence that keeps this entire celestial neighborhood linked together. As the warmth of the sun grows slightly stronger in my imagination, I become aware of the planets that form soft, smooth paths around it. Their orbits, which in textbooks look like sharp lines or precise ellipses, appear here as wide, gentle loops gliding quietly through space. Mercury, closest to the sun, moves swiftly, completing a full circle in just 88 Earth days. But even its fast orbit feels serene when viewed from this drifting perspective. Venus glides more slowly, covered in thick clouds that reflect sunlight so completely that it shines softly in the darkness. Earth moves with a familiar grace, taking a full year to complete its circle, while Mars travels with a quiet reddish glow. Farther out, the giant planets, Jupiter and Saturn, move in broad arcs, majestic and slow, each carrying dozens of moons with them. Even farther still, Uranus and Neptune drift with an icy patience, completing their grand orbits over decades and centuries. Although each planet is separated by enormous distances, the space between them does not feel empty or wasted. It feels spacious, like the quiet space between piano notes played at a relaxed bedtime tempo. As I continue floating inward, I start thinking about how this entire system came to be. It is calming to imagine everything beginning as a giant cloud of gas and dust drifting through the galaxy. Not in a hurry, not in a rush, simply floating as softly as I am now. Over millions of years, gravity began to gather the cloud inward, slowly pulling particles closer. The cloud flattened into a rotating disk that spread out like a delicate sheet, and at the center, material grew dense enough to heat up and ignite into the sun. The remaining dust and gas circled around this newborn light, and small grains of material met gently, sticking together, forming clusters that grew larger and larger. It might have been a chaotic process in reality, but in this quiet imagining, I see it as grains of sand settling in a pool of still water, grouping together without force. Some groups grew into the rocky planets closer to the sun, while others collected enough gas to become the giant planets farther out. In the colder outer regions, tiny icy bodies formed by the trillions, drifting into quiet orbits that remain undisturbed even today. I watch myself drifting past the asteroid belt, a region of countless rocky fragments that circle the sun between Mars and Jupiter. Many imagine this belt as a crowded place where rocks constantly collide, but the reality is far more peaceful. The objects are separated by vast distances, drifting slowly along their orbits. Most never come close to touching another. They exist in their own quiet routes, following paths carved long ago. Beyond them lies the smooth openness of space leading to Jupiter, a world so large that it could hold more than 1,000 Earths inside. But even Jupiter, with its swirling clouds, seems calm from a distance, moving patiently around the sun in a circuit that takes nearly 12 years. And Saturn, with its rings made of icy particles that reflect sunlight in soft glimmers, feels like a reminder that beauty exists even in the quietest and most distant places. Uranus tilts on its side in a gentle, unusual orientation, drifting through space like a rolling sphere, and Neptune circles calmly at the far edge of planetary space, taking 165 years to complete just one orbit far beyond Neptune. The Kuiper belt stretches like a quiet, icy field. Tiny frozen bodies, including Pluto, glide slowly through the darkness. Some of these objects take hundreds of years to complete a single circle around the sun, and beyond even these distant drifters lies the imagined boundary of the Oort cloud, a spherical shell of icy objects so far away that sunlight reaches them only as a faint, distant whisper. If I imagine myself standing at that boundary again, I would see the sun not as a warm, glowing ball, but as a tiny spark of light barely brighter than a star. And yet, even at that unimaginable distance, the sun's gravity reaches outward, holding those icy bodies in place. This gentle thread of connection, stretching across trillions of kilometers, comforts me. It reminds me that even at the farthest edges of the solar system, nothing is completely alone. Everything remains softly tied to the warmth at the center. As I let these thoughts settle, I begin to appreciate how soothing it is to think about the solar system in this slow, peaceful way. Nothing hurries. Nothing shakes the quiet. Each planet moves at its own pace. Each moon drifts through its own path. Each fragment of ice or rock follows a route carved by gravity long before humans ever gazed at the night sky. When seen with calm eyes, the entire solar system becomes a place of deep order and gentle motion. Even the distances, which are so vast that they are almost impossible to grasp, feel like open fields where nothing interrupts the softness of the journey. The sun shines steadily. The planets glide silently. Small bodies drift in patient orbits, and I float among them, experiencing a tranquility that feels endless as I drift even closer to the warm glow of the sun. I feel myself drawing near to the first small world that circles closest to it. This world is scorched by the sun's heat, shaped by extreme temperature shifts, and marked by ancient craters, but in the gentleness of this drifting imagination, even this harsh environment becomes a place of soft quietness, ready to reveal its calm secrets one by one as I approach. As I drift closer to the innermost region of this peaceful celestial neighborhood, I can feel a subtle change in the light around me. It grows brighter, not harshly, but gradually, as though the sun is exhaling a soft, warm glow that gently wraps around everything in its reach. The first world I approach is small compared to the others, so small that it seems almost delicate in the vastness around it. Yet this tiny world has circled the sun for billions of years, holding its place quietly despite its closeness to the blazing center. As I float nearer, I sense that Mercury is not a dramatic world, not one that calls out for attention or commands the sky with grand features. Instead, it feels like a quiet companion of the sun, small, ancient, and loyal to its path. There is something peaceful in the way it endures, the intense warmth, something steady and accepting in the way it continues its orbit without complaint. From a distance, Mercury appears as a softly textured sphere, covered in gentle indentations that record its long history. Each crater feels like a tiny whisper from the past, a reminder of how many billions of years this quiet little world has been here. As I get closer to its surface in this calm drift, I notice that Mercury's face is almost entirely covered in craters, some wide and smooth-edged, others smaller and sharper. These marks tell stories of long-ago collisions, but in this peaceful view they look more like patterns on an ancient stone, each one shaped by time. The Caloris Basin, one of the largest impact features in the solar system, stretches across Mercury's surface like a silent reminder of something that once happened with force, but now lies still and settled. In the gentle glow of imagined starlight, even this enormous basin feels softened by age. The ground is quiet, the air is absent, and the silence feels deeper than any silence on Earth could ever be. Without an atmosphere to carry sound, everything here rests in perfect stillness. Temperatures swing wildly between scorching heat and freezing cold, yet there is no wind, no storm, no rustle of dust. The day is filled with the sun's warm presence, its rays falling directly on the surface without scattering through air. The night, in contrast, is an endless dark chill. But in this slow, restful moment, both extremes blend into a simple transitioner, gentle passing of light into shadow, then shadow back into light, in a rhythm that has remained unchanged for eons. One of the most calming things about Mercury is the way it spins. A single day here, from sunrise to sunrise, lasts longer than its entire year. It orbits the sun quickly, completing one circle in just 88 Earth days. But it rotates so slowly that the sun drifts across the sky at a leisurely pace. This creates a strangely soothing rhythm. Long stretches of sunlight followed by long stretches of darkness, each unfolding over many Earth weeks. It feels like the planet breathes in warmth for a very long time, then breathes out into darkness just as slowly. From the surface, the sun would appear larger and brighter than anywhere else in the solar system. And yet, even that intense brightness feels gentle in this imagining, like a warm lamp glowing in a quiet room. Mercury's long shadows stretch slowly across its surface, sliding in gradual motion as the day progresses. Nothing rushes here. Nothing hurries the sunrise or pushes the sunset. The entire world moves with a patience that invites me to breathe slower, to sink into its unhurried flow, despite being so close to the sun. Mercury has pockets of permanent shadow in some of its polar craters regions, where sunlight never reaches, not even for a moment. These places are cold enough to trap ice, and radar observations have revealed bright deposits that suggest frozen water rests within those shadows. The idea that ice can survive on a world so close to the sun feels comforting in this calm drift, as though even in the warmest, brightest places, there are cool corners that never feel the heat. In the quiet darkness of these polar regions, the ice lies undisturbed, protected from sunlight by high crater walls. The contrast between day and night, warmth and cold, light and shadow creates a balance that feels more peaceful than contradictory. Mercury holds both extremes without conflict, allowing each to exist in harmony with the other. Even the lack of atmosphere, which allows heat to escape at night and temperatures to plummet, adds to the planet's quiet character. There is nothing here to stir, nothing to howl or whisper, nothing to shift the dust except the slow touch of micrometeorites over time. The planet's surface, viewed up close, looks like a calm, ancient landscape. Dust lies undisturbed for ages, and the only motion comes from the slow, steady passage of time. Because Mercury has no atmosphere, its sky is always black, even when the sun is shining. The stars remain visible, standing still in their distant places. At sunrise, the sun would appear to pause, reverse direction a little, and then resume rising, the result of Mercury's unusual orbit and rotation. Even this rare movement feels gentle when imagined slowly, like the sun is stretching before continuing its climb. As I drift above the surface, I imagine how the horizon curves beneath me, smooth and subtle, a gentle arc that cradles the quiet landscape. Sometimes, Mercury's distance from the sun varies slightly due to its elliptical orbit, causing the light to grow just a little more intense, then soften again. But these changes happen gradually, blending into the planet's long, drawn-out days. The more I float above this small world, the more I appreciate its quiet resilience. It has no storms, no rain, no flowing rivers. Nothing erodes its surface except the gentle fall of tiny particles over millions of years. Its crust holds traces of ancient volcanic plains that spread softly across its surface long ago. But those plains are now as still as everything else. Even its magnetic field, weaker than Earth's, forms a soft bubble around the planet, deflecting some of the charged particles streaming from the sun. Though Mercury has been sculpted by time and heat, it seems content in its simplicity, content in its closeness to the sun, content in the soft balance of light and dark that defines its days. As I drift farther from the surface, the planet becomes a small sphere once again, its grey and brown tones blending into the surrounding darkness. The warmth of the sun grows stronger behind me, and the vast space ahead begins to glow faintly with the presence of another world. This next world is larger, brighter, and wrapped in thick clouds that reflect sunlight with a soft, creamy glow. It waits closer to the sun than Earth does, holding secrets beneath swirling layers of mist. Though it is different from Mercury in almost every way, it shares the same gentle orbiting rhythm, the same quiet loyalty to the sun's gravity, the same patient journey through space. I take one last slow look at Mercury, feeling grateful for its calm endurance, its ancient surface, and its quiet, unwavering presence beside the sun. Then I drift onward, letting the glow of the next planet guide me through the warm light. As I drift away from the warm, cratered stillness of Mercury, I feel the light around me begin to soften in a different way. It is not just the sun's glow anymore. There is something else shaping the brightness. Ahead of me, a pale golden sphere grows gradually larger, wrapped in layers of soft, swirling clouds that glow gently under the sunlight. This world appears smooth from a distance, almost creamy in its brightness, as though its entire surface is hidden beneath a thick blanket of mist. As I float closer, the warm light passing through those clouds takes on a muted tone, becoming diffused and delicate. The world I am approaching is Venus, a planet so wrapped in cloud layers that its surface remains concealed from view. The closer I drift, the more it feels as though I am moving toward a glowing lantern resting in the quietness of space. There is no harsh edge, no abrupt change, just a gradual blending of shadow and light, shaped by clouds that have swirled around this world for hundreds of millions of years. The atmosphere is thick, dense, and soft in appearance, even though I know it hides immense pressure. Yet in this imagined drift, I do not feel that crushing weight. Instead, I feel as though I am floating above a vast sea of silent fog, watching gentle currents move slowly in the upper atmosphere as sunlight glides over them. I move closer still, entering the high clouds where the wind flows smoothly around the planet. Venus rotates very slowly, far more slowly than Earth or Mercury, and in the opposite direction. But the thick atmosphere moves much faster, circling the planet in a constant, quiet flow. If I imagine myself floating within these upper layers, the world below feels still, while the clouds around me drift softly, sliding past in long flowing ribbons of pale gold and white. There is a sensation of being carried by a gentle current, a wind strong enough to circle the planet in just a few days. Yet in this bedtime, imagining it feels more like a calm and steady push, the kind that rocks one gently. These clouds are made of tiny droplets of sulfuric acid, but their appearance smooth, thick, and luminous makes them seem like soft layers of cotton. Through them, the sunlight filters in a muted way, fading into warm tones that remind me of a candle being seen through frosted glass. The softness of the light gives this world an almost dreamlike stillness, even though deep below the surface, the environment is intensely hot and pressurized. From my drifting perspective high above the cloud tops, Venus resembles a peaceful, glowing orb. The horizon curves gently beneath the cloud layers, and the sunlight that touches them moves across in slow waves. Shadows here do not fall sharply, because the clouds scatter light so thoroughly that everything glows with a uniform softness. There is no real night at these heights, a warm dimness where the sun's rays fade but never completely disappear. I find comfort in how these clouds create a sense of insulation, like a thick blanket wrapped around the planet, smoothing out the transitions between day and night. As I glide along this soft boundary, I imagine looking down into the deeper layers. Thick clouds continue all the way down, hiding volcanic plains and mountains beneath them. But none of that harshness reaches me here. All I perceive is the calm, slow dance of cloud belts flowing in wide, patient movements around the entire globe. The atmosphere of Venus is so dense that its pressure at the surface is more than 90 times that of Earth's. But the high clouds where I drift feel weightless, as though I am suspended in a world made entirely of soft light and warm air. If I let my imagination sink gently downward only halfway, never reaching the harsh lower layers, see how sunlight struggles to move through the haze. The deeper the clouds, the thicker the golden glow becomes, eventually turning the sky into an endless twilight. No matter how deep I imagine going, I never hear a sound. The wind, even though it is fast, feels muted, as if the heavy atmosphere dampens every motion, every vibration, every whisper. There is something deeply soothing about moving through such a thick, quiet environment. It feels like floating through warm fog where even time slows. I pull back up again into the higher clouds, feeling the atmosphere lighten as I rise. From this vantage, I can also reflect on the planet's slow rotation. Venus takes longer to complete one spin than it does to orbit the Sun. Its days stretch across more than 100 Earth days, long enough for the slow turn of its horizon to feel almost imperceptible. If I stayed hovering above one region of the planet for a while, I would see the Sun drifting backward through the sky, rising in the west and setting in the east. This gentle reversal feels strangely calming, like watching something familiar in slow motion from a different angle. Time unfolds slowly here, in a steady, unhurried rhythm. The slow spin and thick atmosphere give Venus a deeply settled presence, as if the entire planet is breathing in long, measured intervals. The temperature at the surface is hotter than any other planet. Hot enough to melt lead, but from above the clouds, that heat feels distant and softened, like a warmth that remains far below and never quite reaches the altitude where I drift. Venus has been reshaped many times by volcanic activity, and scientists believe that much of its surface may have renewed itself in bursts long ago. But all that intensity lies beneath layers of cloud so deep that none of it disturbs the calm atmosphere above. Up here, the only visible motion is the slow, steady flow of wind circling the planet. The movement feels almost like a quiet heartbeat, a soft pulse that keeps the atmosphere turning. As I drift gently along the cloud tops, I notice patterns that form naturally, a smooth swirl here, a faint spiral. They're shaped not by sudden storms, but by the slow interaction of heat and wind. Unlike Earth, Venus does not have dramatic thunderstorms or changing seasons. Its tilt is small, so the length of its days and nights barely changes throughout the year. This steadiness gives the planet a kind of calm consistency. Light always filters in the same pale way. The atmosphere always moves with the same patient rhythm. Even the faint lightning that scientists believe occurs far below does not reach the upper clouds with force or sound. Everything remains wrapped in thick silence. The upper clouds of Venus are cool enough for lifelike calmness, though no life as we know it could survive the acidic droplets. Yet the environment here holds a quiet beauty that feels strangely serene. If I imagine drifting horizontally across these cloud plains, the view in every direction is endless, a soft horizon of luminous mist, stretching outward until the glow fades into space. There is no clear boundary where the clouds end and the stars begin. Instead, there is a gradual transition as the glowing fog thins and the dark sky deepens. The brightness of the sun reflects off the clouds so strongly that Venus shines even from Earth's night sky, earning it the names morning star and evening star. Knowing this makes me feel connected to the planet in a gentle way, as though the soft glow I see from Earth is a distant echo of the brightness I now drift through. I imagine drifting slowly around the planet's curve, watching the sunlight shift along the clouds. On one side, the bright day side glows warmly. On the other, the faint night side floats in dim golden twilight. Unlike Earth, where night feels crisp and cool, Venus's night still holds warmth deep within the clouds, and the glow of the sun never fully disappears. Even on the dark side, the atmosphere reflects and scatters light in such a way that shadows remain soft. This dimness feels comforting, like floating through a room lit by a distant lantern. As I continue around, I can sense how the thick air carries light further than one might expect, blurring every transition until nothing feels abrupt or sharp. All edges are softened, all contrasts muted. The more time I spend drifting around Venus, the the more I appreciate how naturally quiet the world feels. There are no oceans to crash against shores, no forests to rustle, no breezes to stir leaves. There is only the slow, continuous movement of air thick enough to dampen all sound. And because the clouds block the view of the ground, everything seems suspended within a peaceful sky. Even the planet's remarkable brightness feels gentle from this view, filtered through layers that turn harsh sunlight into a broad, warm glow as I slowly drift higher, leaving the upper clouds behind. The brightness dims slightly and the space around me widens. The golden layers fall away beneath me, revealing Venus once again as a pale, glowing sphere wrapped in its silent shell of mist. From afar, it looks smooth and tranquil, a world that has chosen to remain hidden, letting its clouds hold the secrets of its surface. There is a deep elegance in its quietness, a calm presence that lingers even as I begin moving away. Ahead of me lies a different kind of world cooler, bluer, more familiar. It carries oceans, clouds of water vapor, and a delicate air that can be breathed. It turns more quickly, with nights and days that pass in steady rhythms. And unlike Venus or Mercury, this world is one I have known all my life, even from the ground, with a soft final glance at the golden mist behind me. I drift toward the next part of my journey, ready to approach the calm blue glow of the world I call home. As I drift away from the soft golden glow of Venus, the light around me begins to change in a subtle and comforting way. It becomes cooler, smoother, and more familiar with each slow breath I imagine taking. The warmth behind me fades into a calm memory, and ahead of me, a gentle blue sphere slowly grows brighter against the deep quiet of space. There is something soothing in its appearance, something that feels like a slow, deep exhale after a long day. The blue grows deeper as I approach, layered with soft strokes of white that stretch and curl across its surface. These shapes move slowly, not hurried or restless, but in calm spirals and drifting bands that circle the world with an easy patience. From this distance, the clouds look like delicate brushstrokes painted on a glowing marble, and the oceans below reflect a cool light that moves like a soft shimmer. This is Earth, and even from far above, it carries a sense of calm that sinks into me in a quiet, steady way. As I draw nearer, the air surrounding the planet seems to stretch outward, thinning into a gauzy layer of atmosphere that glows softly against the darkness. This thin band of air, fragile yet protective, is the only thing that separates the surface from the infinite night of space. It appears almost like a faint blue halo around the planet, shimmering gently under the sunlight. This layer, though so thin when seen from space, holds every breeze, every drifting cloud, every quiet breath ever taken on the surface. It keeps the oceans from boiling away, shields the ground from harmful light, and carries warmth across continents. As I glide closer, I feel myself entering this soothing boundary, imagining the gentle resistance of the atmosphere brushing past me like cool silk. Even though I am only moving through this world in a calm, bedtime imagining, the atmosphere makes me feel held and supported, as though the planet itself is wrapping its soft air around me. As I drift deeper into this layer, I notice the clouds more clearly. They move in soft motions shaped by gentle winds far below. Some stretch into long, thin strands that look like faint strokes of white chalk against the sky, while others gather into dense, cotton-like masses that puff quietly over the oceans. These clouds form when warm air rises, cools, and allows tiny droplets of water to gather into delicate structures that float with barely any weight. They carry the rhythms of the world's weather in a calm and balanced way, bringing rain where it is needed, shade where it cools the land, and patterns of wind that help plants and animals thrive. Yet from above, none of this activity seems rushed. Everything appears to unfold in slow, gentle cycles that repeat day after day, like a soft, natural lullaby shaped by sunlight, moisture, and air dot below the clouds. The oceans stretch in long, soothing expanses of deep blue, covering more than 2/3 of the planet. They shape Earth's color more than anything else. Their surfaces reflect light in ways that shift gradually from bright patches of shimmering silver to darker, calmer blues. These oceans are ancient, older than most mountains and older than nearly all life on land. Their slow currents move like deep breaths across the planet, carrying warmth and coolness from one place to another in patient cycles that can take centuries to complete. The sound of waves crashing and receding, though unheard from here, feels somehow present in the imagination, a calming rhythm that has existed for longer than humans have been alive. From above, I see how the oceans cradle chains of islands and curve around the edges of continents, shaping coastlines that have shifted gently over millions of years. As I drift along the edge of the world, I see the continents spread out beneath the clouds, vast shapes in shades of brown, green, and muted gold. Each color tells a quiet story. The deep greens hint at forests filled with life, where leaves move softly in breezes that come and go with the day's warmth. The lighter greens and pale browns suggest grasslands and plains, where simple plants sway under wide open skies. Mountains rise in long, gentle arcs, their peaks dusted with snow that glows faintly in the sunlight. These mountains are shaped by slow movements within the planet, motions so gradual that entire lifetimes pass without anyone noticing. Yet, over millions of years, they rise and shift, forming the grand ranges I see from here. Earth's surface is always moving in incredibly slow patterns, continents drifting, seas deepening, valleys widening, but the pace is so calm that it resembles the steady, unhurried pulse of a sleeping world. Tiny specks of light appear on the dark side of the planet, glowing softly like warm embers scattered across a blanket of shadow. These lights come from human homes, cities, and quiet towns where people gather at night under soft lamps and glowing windows. From this distance, the human presence looks gentle, delicate, and balanced, blending into the natural world rather than disturbing it. The lights do not overwhelm the darkness. They simply dot the landscape like small, flickering stars resting on the surface. It reminds me that, even in the bustle of life below, there are still countless moments where people sit quietly, breathe slowly, and listen to the calm stillness of the night as I drift. The earth rotates beneath me, turning smoothly on its axis. This slow spin creates the cycle of day and night, one side glowing gently under sunlight, the other resting under darkness. From this vantage point, the transition between light and dark is incredibly soft. There is no sharp dividing line. Instead, a long twilight zone stretches around the planet, where colors fade gradually from bright blue to muted violet to deep, comforting black. This slow fading feels soothing, as though the world itself is settling down for rest. The sunlight sweeps across the surface at a steady pace, warming lands, stirring winds, and guiding the quiet rhythms of life. The presence of the moon, Earth's gentle companion, adds to this calming view. Although I am focusing on Earth itself, I cannot help but sense the moon's soft pull. Its gravity shapes the tides, guiding the oceans as they rise and fall in patient cycles. These tides help life flourish in coastal areas, creating a subtle heartbeat for the seas. The moon has orbited Earth for billions of years, slowly drifting farther away, but always moving with steady grace. Its presence stabilizes Earth's tilt, giving the planet a consistent pattern of seasons that support life in predictable, soothing rhythms. Earth's magnetic field acts as a protective shield, invisible but essential. Moving deep within the planet, the molten iron core generates a field that guards the atmosphere from harmful particles that stream from the sun. Without this shield, much of the air would drift away into space, leaving the world cold and barren. Instead, the field wraps around the planet like a soft, silent bubble, deflecting harmful radiation and shaping the beautiful auroras that shimmer near the poles. These lights dance gently across the sky in soft waves of green and violet, moving without sound, creating natural displays so peaceful that people travel great distances just to watch them sway. As I continue drifting just above the atmosphere, I notice how the planet's weather patterns forge delicate shapes across the surface. Storms form in swirling motions, guided by warm air rising from the oceans. Yet even the largest storms, when viewed from above, appear calm, smooth spirals of clouds turning with steady motion. Rainfall below nourishes forests, rivers, and fields, following cycles that keep the planet's life in balance. Rivers wind across the land like long, silver threads, moving from mountains to lakes to oceans in patient flows that carve the landscape over ages. Lakes reflect the sky in still pools that shimmer gently under clouds. Every part of this world seems to move, breathe, and shift in slow, life-supporting motions. Earth's atmosphere is made mostly of nitrogen and oxygen, gases that support life and shape the sky's calming color. When sunlight passes through the air, shorter blue wavelengths scatter more than others, giving the sky its soft blue hue. This scattering creates the tranquil color that so many find comforting, a color associated with openness, breath, and calm. At sunrise and sunset, the light travels through more of the atmosphere, scattering in reddish and golden tones that paint the sky in warm, soothing bands of color. These daily transitions feel like quiet rituals the planet performs, inviting those who watch to pause and breathe more slowly. As I drift slowly westward, I observe large oceans glistening under sunlight. The Pacific stretches wider than all the land on Earth combined, a vast ancient basin filled with deep, calm waters. The Atlantic lies between continents in a long, gentle curve, its waves shaped by winds that travel far. The Indian Ocean sits quietly in its corner of the world, bordered by warm lands that influence its monsoon cycles. The Arctic appears like a pale, icy shield at the northern edge, while the Southern Ocean wraps around Antarctica in cool, patient currents. All these waters are connected, forming a single global ocean that circulates energy, nutrients, and life in cycles lasting thousands of years. As I move higher again, pulling back from the atmosphere, Earth becomes a soft, glowing orb beneath me. The blue deepens, the white clouds curl gently around it, and the continents blend into vast shapes that look peaceful and still. This world, with all its life, motion, and quiet beauty, turns steadily beneath the sunlight in rhythms so consistent that they feel like a lullaby. I stay for a while longer, letting the view settle into me, allowing the softness of the planet's colors to calm every thought. And when I am ready to drift onward, I slowly turn my attention outward, toward a world farther from the sun, a pale, dusty sphere shaped by cold winds, thin air, and quiet plains waiting beneath a faint pink sky. Asterisk, as I drift gently away from the cool blue glow of Earth. The colors around me shift once again, settling into a softer palette. The blues and greens fade behind me, and ahead, a faint reddish tint begins to rise like a quiet sunrise in the distance. The transition is slow and peaceful, as though the universe itself wants to introduce the next world with calm patience. The small, warm sphere of Mars gradually grows larger, but never in a hurried way. Its surface glows with a muted rust color, softened by distance and the faint light that filters through space. There is something gentle about this red world when seen from afar. It does not feel fierce or harsh. Instead, it looks like a silent desert preserved in a deep state of rest. I drift closer, letting the soft hues spread across my vision until the planet fills my view with its peaceful reddish glow. The thin atmosphere of Mars forms a delicate veil around the planet. It is much lighter than Earth's, almost whisper-thin, yet it creates a faint hazy outline that softens the edge of the planet against the dark backdrop of space. This haze carries dust-fine, reddish grains that have been lifted by gentle winds over countless years. As I glide into this light atmosphere, I feel no resistance, just a sense of entering a world that holds its quietness gently. The dust gives the sky a pale but comforting color, a faint pinkish tone that seems to calm the mind. If I imagine myself drifting through these upper layers, the air feels cool, dry, and still. There is no heavy moisture, no thick humidity, only a delicate dryness that seems to carry the silence further than on any other world I have visited so far below me. The surface expands in wide stretches of muted red and soft brown. The landscape is simple yet rich in detail, made up of plains, valleys, plateaus, and ancient craters. Many areas appear smooth, shaped by gentle winds that have blown across the surface for billions of years. Other regions show deeper ridges, carved by ancient forces and processes long before humans ever looked up and wondered about this world. The color comes from iron oxide rust, spread across the surface in fine mineral dust. Even this dust, moved patiently by the wind, adds a sense of slow passage of time. Everything about Mars seems to move in long, quiet cycles, as if the planet takes its time with every change, every shift, every subtle movement. As I drift lower, I notice the largest volcano in the solar system rising from the surface, Olympus Mons. From this height, it looks like a vast, gentle mound stretching wide across the terrain. Its slopes are long and shallow, so much so that one could walk up them without ever sensing a steep incline. Although it is enormous, there is nothing intimidating about it from this perspective. It rests quietly under the thin atmosphere, no longer erupting, simply watching over the landscape like a still, ancient guardian. Its summit reaches so high that the top almost touches the upper layers of the Martian atmosphere. Around its base, the plains extend in calm, open distances that feel peaceful and undisturbed, moving slowly across the planet. I drift toward Valles Marineris canyon system, so long and deep that from above, it looks like a gentle crack stretching across the surface of the world. But instead of appearing harsh or violent, it seems like a smooth indentation shaped by ages of slow geological change. The canyon's edges slope downward in wide, gentle walls, revealing layers of rock that have formed over unimaginable spans of time. The colors shift subtly from red to brown to pale orange. Descending into its depth feels like sinking into a quiet, ancient memory of the planet. The air here is even thinner, the silence even deeper. Light filters down softly from above, creating a dim, soothing glow that fills the canyon floors. Mars once had flowing water, and evidence of dried riverbeds remains scattered across the surface. From above, these channels appear like long, faint lines winding through the landscape, marking places where liquid once moved slowly and steadily. Though the water is gone now, replaced by ice locked in polar regions and buried beneath the soil, the shapes left behind feel calm and preserved, almost like delicate drawings left on the planet's surface by nature itself. The polar ice caps, shining faintly in white and pale blue, sit quietly at the edges of the world. These caps grow and shrink with the seasons, expanding during colder months and retreating slightly during warmer ones. Even this cycle unfolds at a slow, patient pace, shaped by the gentle tilt of the planet. The Martian seasons pass softly due to the planet's similar tilt to Earth's. Winters in the polar regions bring long nights and layers of frost that settle gently over the surface. Summers bring sunlight that melts some of the ice, releasing thin wisps of vapor into the atmosphere. Dust storms occur here too, but most of them are mild, lifting fine grains of red dust that drift through the thin air like delicate wisps. Occasionally, larger storms can appear, spreading dust across wide areas and softening the planet's color even more. Yet even these events hold a strangely peaceful quality from afar, appearing more like a slow-moving blanket of mist rather than a violent storm. As I drift from place to place, I notice small craters scattered across the terrain. Each one holds a stillness that seems untouched by time. Many of these craters formed millions or even billions of years ago, but without weather like Earth's or thick erosion, they remain preserved, as if frozen in a long sleep. Some craters contain central peaks formed by the rebound of the ground after an impact long ago. Others hold smooth, sandy floors where dust has settled in even layers. These features do not feel harsh or jagged. Instead, they appear as natural depressions softened by age and gentle winds. One of the most calming sights comes from observing the Martian horizon. Because the atmosphere is so thin, distant objects appear slightly blurred, creating a soft fade between ground and sky. The sun appears smaller here than on Earth, and its light is dimmer, giving sunrise and sunset a unique, gentle glow. During these times, the sky turns a soft blue near the sun, while the rest of the horizon remains tinted in pale red. The contrast is subtle and soothing, as though the planet is slowly transitioning between rest and wakefulness. The two small moons of Mars, Phobos and Deimos, circle the planet silently. They are irregular in shape, looking more like gentle stones than traditional moons. Their orbits are quiet and steady. Phobos moves quickly, crossing the sky in just a few hours, while Deimos drifts more slowly, moving gently over long stretches of time. Their presence feels comforting, like two quiet companions keeping watch over the sleeping surface. From above, they resemble peaceful guardians drifting softly through the dark sky. The Martian atmosphere is mostly carbon dioxide, with small traces of nitrogen and argon. It carries almost no moisture, making clouds rare but not impossible. When clouds do appear, they often form in thin, delicate layers made of ice crystals. These clouds create faint streaks that drift gracefully across the sky, especially near dawn and dusk. At times, thin fog can form near the surface in certain regions, moving slowly through valleys and creating a soft, muted landscape that feels almost dreamlike. If I drift across the plains during the imagined night, the darkness is deep but calming. Without a thick atmosphere to scatter sunlight, The sky becomes incredibly clear. Stars shine with gentle intensity, filling the heavens with tiny points of silver light. Occasionally, faint light from Earth can be seen from Mars, appearing as a small pale dot in the sky. The stillness of this Martian night feels profound, like being wrapped in a quiet that stretches for millions of miles. As I move higher again, pulling myself softly away from the surface, the entire planet begins to shrink gently beneath me. The red plains merge into smooth shapes, and the faint haze around the planet forms a quiet halo. From this distance, Mars looks like a small red lantern floating silently in the emptiness of space. The details of the terrain fade, replaced by a uniform calmness. The world turns slowly beneath me, carrying its soft colors and gentle landscapes through the peaceful darkness. My journey continues outward, away from this quiet red sphere. Behind me, the planet seems to exhale softly, settling back into its timeless stillness. Ahead of me lies a realm of swirling gas, great storms, deep cold, and vast beauty. The next world is enormous compared to the ones I have just visited, filled with bands of clouds and a glow that stretches across thousands of kilometers. With a slow, relaxed motion, I drift toward that distant, giant world, ready to meet the calm, quiet patterns of its soft, swirling atmosphere. As I drift steadily away from the soft, rust-colored glow of Mars, I feel the emptiness around me widen in a slow, soothing way. Space stretches out like a calm ocean, silent and endless, carrying me toward a world much larger than anything I have visited so far. The red planet gradually becomes a faint ember behind me, and ahead, an enormous sphere begins to fill the distance with a pale, gentle light. At first, the world seems simply large. Then, with every passing moment, it becomes vast, so wide, so full, so quietly immense, that it feels as though I am approaching a floating tapestry woven from soft clouds. This is Jupiter, the giant that rules the outer region of our solar system. Even from far away, I can sense its presence. It does not feel loud or overwhelming. Instead, it feels like a deep, slow breath, stretching across the darkness with steady stillness. As I move closer, the bands of color that circle the planet become more distinct. They wrap around Jupiter in long, gentle layers of pale cream, warm beige, soft brown, and muted orange. These bands stretch endlessly from one side to the other, forming smooth paths shaped by calm, steady winds. The colors do not clash or distract. Instead, they blend into one another with fluid ease, creating a planet that looks like a swirling painting. Each band represents a region of atmosphere moving at its own pace, but from my distant drifting, the motion seems incredibly slow, almost like the surface is breathing in rhythmic waves. There is no hurry here. Every swirl, every curve, every turn unfolds in an unhurried pattern that feels soothing to watch, like the steady movement of gentle tides far below. As I glide nearer, the clouds grow clearer. They are made of ammonia crystals, water vapor, and other gases that form soft, billowy layers. The wind on Jupiter moves at remarkable speeds, but watching it from a peaceful distance makes the movement seem less like rushing and more like a smooth, continuous flow. The bright bands are zones of rising air, while the darker bands are belts where the air sinks. These patterns create long, stretching shapes that drift around the entire planet. Some appear as smooth streaks. Others form subtle, swirling nodules that twist gently in the currents. Yet nothing feels turbulent from here. The distance softens every motion, making the atmosphere look like a vast, slow-moving quilt of pastel clouds. Beneath these upper layers lies an atmosphere so deep and dense that no solid surface exists below. Jupiter is made mostly of hydrogen and helium, the same elements that make up the Sun. Deep within its layers, the pressure grows stronger and stronger, eventually compressing hydrogen gas into a strange, liquid form that flows like a calm metal sea. But none of that intensity reaches my quiet vantage above the clouds. All I see is the peaceful upper atmosphere, drifting slowly in sweeping bands that wrap around the planet like soft strokes of a giant brush. As I drift above the cloud tops, I observe the great red spot, a vast oval swirling slowly in the southern region of the planet. It is a giant storm, wider than Earth itself, but from this calm bedtime distance, it does not feel fierce or loud. Instead, it appears as a muted, pale oval nestled among the bands, rotating in peaceful circles like a gentle whirlpool in a giant sky. Its outer edges blend in softly with the surrounding bands, and its inner swirls move gracefully in slow spirals. Though the storm has raged for centuries, its motions here look almost meditative, turning round and round without hurry or pause. Watching it feels like watching a slow, steady cloud drift across the horizon on a quiet afternoon around the red spot. I notice smaller oval storms, white and soft in appearance. These mini-storms form where the atmospheric bands interact gently, creating areas of rotation. They dot the atmosphere like small, drifting pearls carried along by the wind. Each one moves at its own pace, guided by the larger patterns around it. Even though the winds are powerful, their appearance offers no hint of chaos, only calm. Circular shapes gliding through softly colored clouds as I drift further westward. I see delicate wisps rising from the deeper layers. These small plumes twist upward before dissolving quietly into the upper atmosphere. They remind me of gentle steam rising from warm water, curling softly before blending away. The planet's atmosphere is full of these tiny motions, little dancers of gas that fade quietly before they can gather into something larger. All these subtle details give Jupiter an unexpected softness, as though its enormous size is wrapped in a blanket of gentle clouds, moving along the boundary between light and shadow. I drift into the soft nighttime side of Jupiter. The colors fade into deeper, more muted tones as sunlight no longer strikes the clouds directly. The atmosphere becomes a peaceful mixture of dark browns and subtle grays, with faint reflections from the distant sun giving the clouds a dim, restful glow. The bands remain visible, but in a quieter pattern, softly layered like folded fabric resting in the dark. Lightning occasionally flashes within deeper clouds, but the flashes are distant, silent, and softened by the thickness of the atmosphere. They illuminate a brief area with pale light before fading quietly into the surrounding darkness dot around the giant planet. Orbit many moons, large ones, small ones, icy ones, each moving in quiet arcs, guided by Jupiter's massive gravity. The four largest moons, the Galilean moons, are the most noticeable from my drifting path. They appear like soft, glowing spheres gently circling the giant. Their slow motion around the planet feels calming, like watching lanterns move on a silent breeze. Closest to Jupiter is Io, a world covered with volcanic plains. Even from this distance, I can see faint hints of its yellow and orange hues. Its volcanoes are active deep below, but its movement through space is steady and quiet, following its path with calm consistency. Next comes Europa, smooth and pale, wrapped in a shell of ice that reflects a gentle light. Its icy surface holds long streaks, like soft lines scratched across frosted glass, suggesting oceans hidden far below. This world feels particularly peaceful, like a quiet, frozen sphere drifting in restful circles. Further still is Ganymede, the largest moon in the solar system, larger even than Mercury. It appears like a calm, grey-white world, marked by bright and dark patches, shaped by its icy and rocky layers. Its presence feels solid and still, a gentle giant orbiting the larger giant. Finally, Callisto drifts at the outer edge of this group, its surface dotted with ancient craters that give it a soft, textured appearance. Its colors are subtle soft browns and pale grays blending gently. Together, each of these moons casts quiet shadows on Jupiter's cloud tops when they pass between the planet and the sun. These shadows appear as dark, round shapes sliding slowly across the atmosphere. Watching a shadow drift across the swirling bands feels soothing, like watching a small cloud gently move across a calm sky. The motions are steady and unhurried. Pulling back a little, I notice Jupiter's faint rings. They are not bright or bold like the rings of Saturn. Instead, they form a delicate, dim halo made of tiny dust particles and small fragments. They are so subtle that one must look carefully to see them at all. But once visible, they add a gentle grace to the planet, encircling it with a thin, quiet loop of shimmering dust. Drifting higher still, the full beauty of Jupiter becomes clearer. The bands wrap around the planet in wide, peaceful curves. The red spot sits like a calm, oval decoration. The moons circle in patient arcs. The rings form a soft, delicate halo. All of these features move together in an enormous, slow rhythm that feels almost musical in its consistency. Nothing appears rushed. Nothing seems abrupt. Everything flows. As I begin to move away from Jupiter, the planet slowly shrinks behind me, though its presence still feels warm and steady for a long while. The colors blend into a soft, swirling sphere of creams and browns. The moons form small dots of light around it. And gradually, the giant world becomes another quiet lantern in the deep silence of space. Ahead of me, another gentle glow begins to appear. It is cool, pale, and ringed with wide, soft arcs that stretch outward in graceful lines. The next world awaits, a world known for its beautiful rings and calm, distant light. As I glide away from the vast, swirling clouds of Jupiter, the space around me opens into an even broader calmness. Jupiter's soft browns and creams fade into the dark distance, shrinking into a gentle, glowing sphere behind me, and I slowly drift through a quieter region of the solar system where the sunlight feels cooler and more delicate. Ahead of me, a pale shape begins to glow softly. At first, it appears as a faint light that blends quietly with the blackness. Then, over time, an unmistakable outline begins to emerge, outline not of a single sphere, but of a wide, graceful structure extending gently outward like ripples frozen in place. The further I drift, the clearer it becomes. I am approaching Saturn, the world wrapped in the most serene rings I could ever imagine. The planet itself appears as a muted, creamy sphere, glowing faintly with soft shades of gold. But it is the rings that capture my eyes long before anything else. They encircle Saturn with quiet perfection, reaching outward in thin, delicate sheets that appear almost weightless from this distance. The rings do not shine brightly. Instead, they reflect the sunlight in a gentle way, giving them a pale, shimmering tone. They look so thin and calm that it feels as if a single whisper might cause them to tremble. Yet I know they are made of countless pieces of ice, rock, and dust, small fragments drifting together in silent harmony. As I come closer, the rings grow wider and clearer. They spread out like a soft, glowing veil wrapped gently around the planet. The icy particles reflect subtle waves of light, creating patterns that shift with the angle of the sun. The edges of the rings blur softly where they fade into space. No sharp lines, no sudden boundaries, everything melts into a smooth gradient of pale silver and faint gold. The rings are divided into many bands, but from a calm distance, they seem like one flowing structure gently stretched across the planet, like a quiet halo. The atmosphere of Saturn is peaceful in appearance. Its surface is not solid, but made of thick gases that blend into one another in wide, gentle layers. Soft stripes of muted colors wrap around the planet in a way that resembles faint brushstrokes swept lightly across a canvas. The winds beneath those clouds move in steady patterns, but from the silence of space, they seem tranquil and unhurried. Saturn's pale colors give it a dreamy presence, as if the planet were asleep beneath its own shimmering rings. The closer I drift, the more the rings fill my view. They span hundreds of thousands of kilometers across, yet they are unimaginably thin, so thin that, if scaled down, they would be far slimmer than a sheet of paper. This delicate form makes them appear like drifting trails of frost lightly sprinkled across the night sky. Their composition varies from larger chunks of ice to tiny grains of dust, but their movement is synchronized, creating an impression of stillness even though they orbit with incredible speed. From afar, I cannot see individual pieces. I only see the collective glow they create, a glow that feels soft and calming, like moonlight spread across water. I drift slowly over the rings, letting my view extend across their smooth plane. Some regions appear bright, shimmering gently as sunlight dances across the icy surfaces. Other regions appear darker, where dust and shadow blend together. The division between these regions is subtle, fading gradually rather than forming distinct edges. The rings feel alive, but in a serene, steady way. Their patterns look like delicate waves, each wave made of countless particles following their circular paths in perfect order, looking downward through the rings. I see Saturn's curved horizon below me, glowing faintly in muted tones. Light filters through the gaps in the rings, creating thin, soft lines of shadow on the planet's upper clouds. These shadows stretch quietly across the atmosphere, moving at a pace so slow that it feels more like a gentle drift than anything else. The shadows seem to glide along the creamy clouds, forming elegant patterns that blend seamlessly with the natural stripes of Saturn's atmosphere. As I glide above the planet, I watch how the rings cast pale, wide shadows that move delicately across the gas layers below. Everything about this world seems soft. The sunlight here is weaker than near Earth or Mars, giving the rings a dimmer glow that suits their calm appearance. Saturn rotates quickly, completing a full turn in just over 10 hours. But from my peaceful vantage point, this rotation feels like a slow spin, the world turning gently beneath a blanket of graceful rings. Saturn's pole holds a geometric shape known as the hexagonal vast pattern in the atmosphere. Though extraordinary, it does not look harsh or sharp from above. Instead, it appears as a faint, symmetrical region, its shape softened by distance and the calm lighting of the outer solar system. It almost feels like a subtle imprint left by the planet's quiet winds, rotating steadily in place like a slowly turning snowflake, drifting away from the pole. I turn my attention once again to the rings, noticing their divisions more clearly the closer I move. The Cassini division stands out as a darker band between two of the brightest rings. Even this gap has a soft, muted look, as though the particles within it have simply spread out more thinly, allowing the darkness of space to blend quietly with the faintly glowing ice. There is no sharp emptiness, just a gradual fade that feels gentle to observe. As I drift farther outward, I begin to notice the many moons that accompany Saturn. Dozens of them travel around the planet in slow, steady paths. Some are small, appearing like faint specks of light. Others are larger, shaped with their own unique calmness. Each moon moves gracefully, following its orbit like a serene companion circling a distant lantern. The largest moon, Titan, stands out with its thick, hazy atmosphere. Titan glows with a soft golden hue even from afar. Its air is dense, not turbulent or chaotic, but wrapped in a calm orange haze that hides its surface from direct view. The haze spreads evenly across the sphere, giving Titan a dreamy appearance, like a world wrapped in a warm blanket. Beneath that haze, lakes and rivers of liquid methane rest quietly in the cold landscape, their surfaces likely still and reflective under Titan's dim skies. Drifting near this moon feels like hovering next to a quiet, distant world where time moves slowly and softly. And Scutus, another of Saturn's moons, draws my attention with its icy surface. Its exterior is bright and clean, reflecting sunlight like a soft flash of white. From the southern region of the moon, plumes of water vapor rise gently into space. These plumes arch upward in delicate jets, falling back as frozen crystals that drift toward the surface or into Saturn's rings. Watching these plumes feels calming, like observing quiet fountains spraying mist into a still, snowy air. Beneath Enceladus's ice lies a global ocean, hidden but present, adding another layer of quiet mystery to this serene moon. Other moons, like Dione, Rhea, Tethys, and Mimas, drift peacefully around Saturn as well. Each one reflects a faint light from the distant sun. Some show soft patterns of craters and grooves. Others have smooth plains of ice. All of them move quietly in their steady paths, maintaining their slow, graceful dance around the ringed planet. Together, these moons form a family of silent, icy companions that surround Saturn in calm arcs. As I continue drifting across the ring plane, I marvel at how thin, yet endless, the rings appear. They stretch far out from the planet, forming one of the most delicate structures nature has ever created. Passing beside the rings, I can almost imagine the sound they would make if sound could travel through space. Perhaps it would be a faint, tinkling whisper from billions of tiny particles gently brushing past one another. Yet in reality, there is nothing but silence. A silence so deep and peaceful that it feels like part of the rings themselves. The sunlight that reaches Saturn is faint but steady. It casts soft highlights on the icy particles, making the rings shimmer gently. Shadows fall across the planet, and the rings glow faintly against the darkness. Everything here is slow, balanced, and quiet, as if the entire system is in a deep state of rest. Watching the rings rotate feels like watching a slow, endless ballet. Every motion is subtle. Every shift is smooth. Nothing breaks the serenity of this place. As I slowly pull back, lifting my view higher, the full structure of Saturn begins to take shape in front of me. The rings spread out like wide, delicate arms. The planet sits peacefully at their center, wrapped in soft bands of clouds. The moons circle in wide, gentle orbits. The entire system glows faintly in the cold light. forming one of the most calming sights I have experienced on my journey. Little by little, I drift away from Saturn, letting the rings shrink into thin arcs that eventually become a faint outline around a pale sphere. The further I move, the softer the planet appears, until it glows like a small lantern floating alone in the quiet blackness. Ahead, another world awaits, distant and wrapped in a faint, pale blue light. It turns slowly in the dark, surrounded by a set of rings, much fainter but filled with their own quiet charm. As I continue drifting through the deep calm of the outer solar system, the space around me feels even quieter than before. The sun is now a distant, gentle point of light, glowing softly like a faint lantern many billions of kilometers behind me. Its rays still reach me, but they feel cool and muted, as if they are wrapped in layers of silence before touching my path. Ahead of me, a soft blue glow begins to form, barely visible at first, as though the darkness itself is whispering the presence of another world. Slowly, with each passing moment, that glow deepens into a quiet shade of blue that looks peaceful and calm, almost like a gentle pool of water floating alone in a vast night. The world that emerges from this softness is Neptune, the farthest major planet from the Sun. It appears larger with every moment I drift closer, rising from the darkness like a smooth, serene sphere glowing with delicate shades of deep blue and pale aqua. Neptune does not shine with the bright colors of Jupiter or the golden warmth of Saturn. Instead, it carries a cool, soothing glow, as though its presence is meant to calm the space around it. Every part of it feels still, deep, and gentle, like a slow breath in an endless quiet. The closer I move, the more the blue shades reveal themselves in soft gradients. Neptune's upper atmosphere is smooth and lightly streaked with faint patterns of clouds that glide across its surface. The clouds do not appear sharp or intense. Instead, they look like pale wisps stretching slowly over the curved horizon, blending softly into the deeper blues below them. Though Neptune is known for strong winds, from this peaceful, distant vantage point, the motions of the atmosphere look gentle, almost sleepy. The soft shifting of its layers creates a sense of calm movement, like the slow drift of mist over a quiet lake. As I approach the planet, I notice how the sunlight reflects off its surface in a subtle, muted glow. The light does not flash or sparkle. It settles smoothly across the atmosphere, forming a soft halo around the edges of the planet. The color appears richer near the center and gradually fades into a paler blue as it approaches the edges, giving Neptune a rounded, soothing presence. The blackness of space behind it deepens the beauty of its glow, making the planet appear to float like a calm orb of blue glass suspended in a silent void. Surrounding Neptune is a set of rings, though they are much fainter than the graceful arcs around Saturn. These rings appear as thin, delicate bands, barely visible until the light catches them at just the right angle. When that light touches them, they reveal a soft, subtle shimmer, like dust passing through a narrow beam of moonlight. The rings are not bright or bold. Instead, they add a quiet touch to the planet, as if Neptune is gently wrapped in a thin veil that follows its slow path around the sun. Their faint glow feels peaceful, almost secretive, as though they prefer to remain unnoticed, whispering softly in the background, drifting near the rings. I can see small clumps and thin arcs where material gathers in gentle patterns. These patterns form naturally, shaped by the influence of Neptune's moons as they move along their orbits. The dust and ice that form the rings travel silently in their paths, keeping pace with the planet's slow rotation. Even though I know they move at great speeds, From this calm vantage point, they seem to hang in place, suspended in the fabric of space like strands of fine, pale thread. Beyond the rings, the moons of Neptune come into view. Some are small and faint, barely noticeable except for a soft glint of reflected sunlight. They drift quietly in wide arcs around the planet, following slow orbits that seem to blend into the peaceful. The silence here is deep, and even the motion of these moons feels gentle, as if nothing in this part of the solar system wants to disturb the calm. One moon, however, stands out with a serene presence of its own. Triton, Neptune's largest moon, appears as a pale, smooth sphere glowing softly in the dim sunlight. Its surface reflects a quiet light, giving it a gentle, pearly look. As I drift closer, I can see the subtle features on its icy surface, regions of frozen plains and faint markings left by slow geological activity. Triton is unique among the moons of the solar system because it moves in a backward orbit, circling Neptune in the opposite direction from the planet's rotation. Yet even this unusual path feels perfectly calm, as though Triton simply follows its own peaceful rhythm without disturbing anything around it. As I glide near Triton, I notice faint geysers that gently release plumes of nitrogen into the thin atmosphere. These plumes rise quietly before drifting away in delicate trails that fade slowly into the vacuum of space. The icy landscape below them remains still and silent, covered in frozen layers that reflect the dim light in a soft glow. Everything about Triton feels cold yet peaceful, as if the entire moon exists in a state of quiet rest. Pulling back from Triton, I drift once again toward the broad view of Neptune. From here, the planet's blue glow looks even more calming, standing out softly against the quiet backdrop of space. The faint rings wrap around it like a delicate adornment, and the moons continue their peaceful orbits. Neptune turns slowly beneath me, its atmosphere gently shifting as the planet completes a rotation in a little over 16 hours. From this distance, that rotation feels serene, like the slow spinning of a lantern hanging in a quiet night. The sunlight that reaches Neptune is soft, almost like the last rays of dusk fading over Earth's horizon. It brings out the planet's calming colors without creating harsh highlights. The shadows that fall across Neptune's surface are gentle and smooth, forming broad areas of deeper blue that blend naturally into lighter regions. Watching the way light and shadow interact across the planet feels soothing, as if Neptune is quietly breathing under the distant glow of the sun dot drifting further away. I feel the cool vastness of this region of space. Neptune sits far beyond the orbits of the inner planets, far beyond the warmth and brightness of the sun. Here, everything moves at a quiet pace. The distances between worlds are wide and calm, and the silence carries a peaceful stillness that seems to stretch endlessly in all directions. Neptune's presence within this stillness feels like a gentle marker at the edge of our known planetary system, a soft, glowing symbol of the outer limits. As I slowly drift higher, Neptune becomes more fully visible in its entirety. The rings soften into thin, faint lines that curve gently around the planet. The blue sphere glows like a quiet jewel resting in the darkness. The moons appear as small, calm companions, tracing wide paths around their planet. Everything looks balanced and peaceful, as though Neptune and its surroundings have been moving in this calm pattern for billions of years without ever rushing or straining. The further I move away, the more the planet shrinks into the distance. Its blue glow becomes dimmer, but still soothing, like a small, distant light left on for comfort at the far end of a long hallway. The rings fade into its outline, and the moons become faint specks trailing behind. Eventually, Neptune becomes a tiny dot of soft blue suspended in the vast blackness. One quiet world among countless unseen stars beyond this point. The solar system stretches into an even deeper quiet, the Kuiper belt and the long, gentle reach of the heliosphere. The space out here feels like a soft exhale, a region where the sun's influence slowly gives way to the calm of interstellar space. As I drift toward this boundary, I carry with me the gentle glow of Neptune and all the soothing wonders I have seen along the way. The journey across the solar system has taken me through warm, bright worlds and cool, distant spheres, through rings of icy particles and calm layers of gas, through moons wrapped in haze and landscapes covered in ice. Each place has added its own gentle shade to the quiet palette of the night. And now, at the peaceful edge of Neptune, the calm feels complete, as though every soft light and quiet motion has guided me here to this serene end. With Neptune now a tiny blue glow behind me, I drift into the gentle darkness ahead. The stars spread out in calm patterns. The silence deepens, and the journey settles softly into the quiet.